Here.
Yu Min. Here. Andy Garcia.
Here.
Sue Chung. Yes. Jason Kim. Kevin Lynn.
Yes, here.
Peter Longo.
Here.
John Madison.
Yes.
Charlie Shin.
Here.
John DeSumo.
Here.
Sarah Kim.
Present.
Okay, I'd just like to say that Ms. Min and I went up to all the schools about, I guess it was a week ago or two.
Yeah.
And we were so pleased on what we saw. I have to take my supervisory position hat off, but I saw phenomenal lessons going on. It was outrageous in all the schools. I was very pleased at the shape of the schools. I'm so glad that the roof was addressed up at the high school, and the leaks so far are minimal. But I'd like to congratulate everyone and everything that I saw. And again, that's a tribute to our faculty, our administration, and staff. And I thank you all for that. Again, on behalf of the Board of Ed, we'd like to congratulate Ms. Min on having her granddaughter, and it's a great thing for her. And that's a very good thing. So now down to business. And the next item is going to be the report of the superintendent.
Thank you, Dr. Matarazzo. So a few things in no specific order. The last time I saw the group standing in the back, it was a little bit warmer. We were all privileged to be in 85 plus degree weather, and for something that I so much took pride in, to be a part of what you all experienced in the past and what you guys, exemplify in being Palisades Park High School senior high school students. They are members of the dance team, as well as our coach, Rachel Morgessi. They competed at the national dance team competition in Orlando, Florida. They came in 5th place in the country in their category. So I know it's somewhat of a heavy trophy, and I don't want you to have to hold it. So you can put it on the table. I promise I will give it back to you tomorrow at the high school. But again, I truly, as a student athlete, having been through the experience of participating in extracurricular activities, never have experienced something that I watched on Sunday evening. And just the awards presentation itself is like being at an Olympics event. You get chills, you get nervous. My boys, who are 13 and 10, did not want to leave. So that says something about what you all did, and thank you so much for representing Palisades Park community like you did. Kudos. I have two resolutions that I will need motions on in new business. One is our submission of a HIB self-assessment, harassment, intimidation, bullying self-assessment, which all of our schools participate in annually. Our second one would be a resolution to approve on Monday, the 14th of March, Tuesday, the 15th of March, Thursday, the 17th of March, and Friday, the 18th of March, a delayed opening for all students at the senior high school with the exception of 11th grade. There is a new state mandate, NJ GPA. It's a graduation proficiency assessment. And there is a requirement that all juniors be proficient in the field of English language arts and mathematics. It is so important that they participate in that examination without any potential annoyances or bells going off. So we're gonna have a delayed opening for everyone but the 11th grade, and I will need to amend our schedule, so I will seek that resolution. And before you, I did talk about this in the month of October. I handed out this evening an updated timeline and a cost analysis of a district-wide HVAC improvement for our schools. This is inclusive of boilers, this is inclusive of air conditioning, this is inclusive of new piping so desperately needing in some of our schools. Clearly, this is a major cost. With that being said, the magnitude of the project could range between $7 $8.7 million and $8.6 million, which are very, very, very large numbers. The great news is, one of the only positives that I mentioned before about COVID was that we did get coronavirus relief funds. In addition to our reserve accounts, we have approximately $7 million that I can put towards an HVAC project. So on a project that cost our district about 8.7, I have $7 million that we can start to chip away at this project, district-wide. I will be meeting with Buildings and Grounds in the coming days. We will identify the most needed areas, and we will hopefully begin work as the timeline shows this summer. And finally, before us, we have Mr. Steve Wilcox, Auditor of the Palisades Park School District. Once again, he is here to do the requirement of the annual audit presentation. I did submit a hard copy to all board members. I think Ms. Montemuro also emailed that yesterday. So Steve, thank you for being here. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you for having me. Good evening, everybody. I'll just, if you don't mind, pull my mask down for a minute to talk because it's hard to have everybody hear me. I'm happy to be here tonight again. I think I missed last year and perhaps the year before because of COVID. Maybe just last year.
Virtual, I think we did.
I'm happy to report that the audit for the year ended June 30th, 2021, we've issued a clean opinion, an unqualified opinion on the financial statements. I refer to the financial statements are the big book and the management report is the smaller book. In the management report, we had 6 findings, none of which were material in terms of financial nature. They were compliance type findings. I'm also happy to report that there were no repeat findings from the June 30, 2020 audit. And that's always the goal, to be able to fix things that come up during the audit. And there are things that come up in every audit, especially in New Jersey school districts. The Department of Education has made the school audits both financial and compliance. There's a significant amount of compliance work that we're required to do that in other states, the state would do perhaps, but they require us to do it. And the mandate is clear that if even one deviation in a compliance situation, it has to be reported. But I'm here to tell you that of the 6 findings, none are material to the financial statements, none have to do with the financial statements. Again, they have to do with compliance, like example would be classification of a repair. There's 3 different repair accounts within the chart of accounts. If somebody misclassifies it and it comes up during the course of the audit, it's an exception and we have to report that there was an exception. But again, I'm here to tell you that none of the findings were material in nature. None of them really had anything to do with the financial audit or the financial statements, and that's something I think that everybody should be happy and proud of. I'd like to thank the superintendent and business office staff for the help they gave us during the course of the audit, because quite frankly, nobody likes to see us. We come in and we disrupt the normal day of the staff. Not on purpose, but that's just what auditors do. So I'd like to thank them publicly for all the help they gave us, allowing us to do our audit, prepare a report, and submit it to the board. And then I'd be happy to try to answer any questions any of the board members might have.
Any questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And to the board, in closing of my report, at next month's meeting on the 6 findings, we are required to have a corrective action plan that will be prepared in conjunction with the business office. We will obviously seek a resolution before submittal of that. And again, Steve, I thank you and your team for the work performed.
It's nice to be out in public again.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you very much. Okay,
Yeah, management report, copy of the management report, because this is only for financial reports, so that I need a copy of the management report.
The small one?
Yeah.
Of course. Not a problem. There weren't in there, there was only the large books.
yeah,
Okay.
so we got,
There must have been 2 packages then.
Yeah, I still want, I just bought it.
Okay.
okay, we'll get that to you hopefully this week.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank
Well,
you.
tomorrow's Friday.
Let's hope we have school tomorrow and we can get it. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next would be the, report of the board attorney.
Yes, so tonight I have 2 matters to discuss and also request the board to pass resolution for. One is as old business, I received a contract, service contract from ERC. That's the new E-rate vendor that we passed the last time when we had a special meeting. So I intend to discuss the content of the service agreement and also request the board to approve. The second matter is during closed session, I intend to discuss about the content of the memorandum of agreement with the PPAA, that stands for Palisades Park Administrators Association. So we finally finalized the main terms of the contract that we need to renew with that association. So we'll be doing that during closed session.
During closed session. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, minute approval. The first one, I guess we'll do them separate. The first one would be on January 6th, 2022. Do I have a motion on that?
I make a motion.
Second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, any discussion?
Just on the January 6th, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't clear from when I reviewed the notes that the appointments that we approved and the ones that we did not.
Correct.
That was clear. I couldn't see when they were sent to me, I just wanna make sure that's that.
That was just the number 5. that
Correct,
we
that-
wait-
perfect.
Yes.
Okay, thank you,
Correct.
that's it.
Okay. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Dr. Matarazzo.
Yes.
Yun Min.
Yes.
Annie Escobar-Garcia.
Yes.
Sue Chung.
Yes.
Kevin Lin.
Yes?
Peter Longo.
Yes.
John Madison.
Yes.
Charlie Shin.
Yeah.
Thank you. The next one would be for the regular meeting, January 20th, 22. Do I have a motion on that?
I make a motion.
Second on that?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Peters? Peter?
If not, roll call, please.
Dr. Matarazzo.
Yes.
Yun Min.
Yes.
Annie Escobar-Garcia.
Yes.
Sue Chung.
It's about the meeting, I'm sorry that I missed it.
Yes, this is for the approval
Was
of the
that-
regular meeting.
January.
Yes,
Yeah.
January
Okay.
20th.
Okay, what if I have a question about the closed session then?
Was that in the minutes? No. The closed session, Diane, was that in the minutes?
The closed
No.
session is not posted on the website.
No.
But I
Okay,
did
so,
submit
okay,
a
that
closed
is fine.
session.
Oh, but
minutes.
it was on the minutes.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure, yes,
So, yes?
yes.
Okay, yes.
Kevin Lin.
Yes?
Peter Longo.
Yes.
John Madison.
Yes.
Charlie Shin.
Yes.
Great. Okay, then we'll get to the committee reports. We're gonna start with finance. Mr. Lim.
Yeah, before I just move on for, third consent agenda, I just wanna ask for the concern that in connection with the E-rate contract. Because, there is a kind of expense that we, like to move on for consent, but I think, it depends on how we got into contract effective. I think there might be some kind of issue to be clear. So, particularly in connection with the Bruce Serra, the CPA, right? If you look at the expense rate, it was in connection with item 12, the finance item 12, I think it's 12, right?
Not on finance, though, it's not to do with finance.
Yeah, it's a
It
finance
does,
item number
on page
10.
19, there were over $29,000 in expenses to Brucera, so that was my question. When
Yeah,
you got
because,
to it, I wanted to make sure, because his appointment was not renewed on January sixth. So
Right.
I wanna make sure that whatever we're paying for is for
Summation of
services
the-
rendered prior to January sixth. Because as of January sixth, he was no longer reappointed.
Oh, that's January 6th, and not the February 22nd?
No,
Yeah, so
no.
I just want to be clear on the, what is the effective date, because, this expense list, right, there's two items. Initially, I thought that it was like a February 22nd, but if that's like the January 6th, then maybe I
That
just
must have
would-
been the submission, am I correct, of the bills? Dr. Sil?
So, if you want, some clarification, I think when we received the contract from, the new provider, ERC, there was a date on that contract effective, when he was retained by the board at the special meeting through.
February 8th.
Through June of 2013. When E-rate is filed, it is filed for the school year. The school year happens to be July 1st through June 30th. Hence, Mr. Serra has submitted work on behalf of the school district through the end of this school year. When we had our finance meeting yesterday, I had mentioned that there should be a 6-month contract, which now is actually 5 months, February through June.
So.
Then there should be a new contract from July through June. That's what I had emailed, yesterday, Ms. Sarah Kim.
Okay, so my understanding is that, the reason they put June 2023 as the termination of the contract is for our own, convenience. And they didn't really mind, either December 31st, 2022, or June 30th, 2023. So I think it's pretty much up to us to choose. But regardless, it's gonna be, their service is for 1 year, which covers 2022 funding, application cycle for the fee of $3,000.
So,
Right, I think what we're trying to address though is the contract term for Brucera, because we specifically did not, reappoint that vendor to be our E-rate consultant, effective, I understood, January sixth, when we voted no, or we voted not to reappoint.
Correct.
And
That's my
despite that,
understanding as well.
it's my understanding that they went ahead and submitted anyway, and personally, we can have a discussion in closed session, but if they acted without the board's authority, I don't feel that we're financially responsible for those services. But we can discuss that further during closed session, but if we didn't authorize action, and they took action regardless of the board's decision, we can debate as to whether or not they're entitled to get paid.
Yeah, I think it's good, good suggestion, because, I can just propose like, 12 or consent agenda with the exception of.
With the exception of that
Yeah,
one.
particularly with that amount, like 2 amounts, I think, maybe a little bit more, because initially I thought that the contract, is gonna be effective like February 22nd. So if that's the case, then there's 2 items, like total
Right.
about like $6,000, right?
Right.
So with the exception of that amount, I just want to propose like contrary consent agenda for,
So I apologize, I did say 2013, and I want to stand corrected through 2023. So if I understand correctly, on page 19 of the bill list and page 20 of the bill list.
That's right.
Are you looking to move on everything with the
Except
exception
those
of that
two.
at this point? Okay, and again, my only, point of emphasis is, on page 20, as we look at it, on page 20 of the bill list.
Right.
It looks like the second item, which was an E-rate consulting of T-Mobile, those are hotspots, okay? That is from March through June. That submission may have already been completed prior to him not being renewed.
Which is fine, and I don't object to for anything.
So I
prior to
think we'd
January
have to
6th,
find out when the
2022.
submissions were made. He may be entitled to some payments.
Okay, so we'll do though, this motion with the exception of those 2, and then you'll check into that?
Well, again, I see November through June, I see on page 19, I see March through June, I see October through February.
Right.
I see, a year 3 of 3 on LightPath submission. Now, again, I think if we wanna move on everything but these until you all have further evidence,
That's right, yeah.
that's your choice.
Okay.
But I
Yeah,
can
that's
tell
what
you
I'm
next
saying.
year, in the month of December, or January, whether we choose, or excuse me, it's not my recommendation, whether the board chooses to retain ERC or not. You may see bills from ERC after December, because again, our school year
And
is not a calendar year. So there are services that may be provided for the year that may have been submitted prior to.
That's right, that's the kind of things I just want to come from, because, initially, when I spoke with, council, right, even though we had a meeting yesterday, right, so I thought everything went through all the way up to the end of June, so that when it comes to the order payment, I wouldn't see any kind of issue, but, I spoke with the council, and somehow the contract became effective. It's gonna be effective on February 22nd, and from then on, services turn over to the ERC. If that's the case, then whatever service rendered,
We have to
before
pay.
that, I think we can just make our own payments, but
Right.
I initially, I located two invoices, right? I think two items, right?
Mhm.
For about $6,600, right?
Mhm.
But now, I think, after modifying whatever service that rendered, right? I think we can just,
Those we have to
add
pay.
expense, maybe, next
Okay.
So we'll have to have all the bills pulled for any of his services. We will establish
Yeah.
when the services were rendered. If they were prior to the date of the new contract being issued, he would be eligible for payment.
Correct.
I don't know why you didn't back up. Yesterday,
Did
we
it
said the
produce
finance.
yesterday at the
You could ask
finance
Diane
We
for a
did.
copy of it. Okay, so then this resolution will be resolved, all those items except those two,
Yeah.
correct?
There was more than two, so.
More than two?
Page 19 and 20.
Okay.
Two, three, 4, 5, 6 items, 6
Yeah.
payments.
So on those 6 payments?
Yeah.
That's what you want to
That's
do?
what-
Okay, so you made the motion, is there a second on that motion?
So I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? If not, roll call please.
Dr. Matarazzo.
Yes.
Young man.
Yes.
Manisca Garcia.
Yes.
Sue Chung.
Yes.
Kevin Lynn.
Yes.
Peter Longo.
Yes.
John Madison. Charlie Shin.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. The next one would be Buildings and Grounds, Mr. Shin.
Yes, I have 3 recommended resolutions. I like to make a motion to move the all items to consent agenda.
And that includes the bottom one as well?
Yes, so I said yes, 3
Yes.
resolutions.
Great, second on that?
Second.
Any discussion?
Excuse me, Tom, did you say there's 3 resolutions? or
There's
2?
2 plus on the bottom it
On the
says
bottom.
for discussion or approval, that would be number 3.
Oh, I see, okay.
I just wanna make sure, when people are coming to the grounds, I don't know if the rules have changed, but just if whatever fees we charge includes sanitation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I noticed there's an
Yes, sir.
Easter egg hunt.
Yes,
Is the recreation not doing that this year, or is that something that
They
happens?
usually do it at Lindbergh. This is gonna be at the high school.
Oh, okay,
And they didn't put a
We've yet
request
to
in
receive
yet.
the request.
okay.
any other questions? If not, roll call please.
All right, Dr. Matarazzo.
Yes.
We're gonna do a resolution for the third one. This is the kind of.
No, that's gonna be that's gonna be the 3.
Again, I did not receive, all information. I did not make a recommendation on the 3rd item, but if the board wants to move on it without my recommendation, they still can.
Okay.
I don't think you should. I think you should go into it before.
I spoke to
It's
the
not your
person,
recommendation, then we shouldn't do it, we should table it then.
okay, I spoke to the person today and sort of, I believe Diane did. And, I don't know what else she has to provide. Is there anything else that she has to provide?
To me, again, I just need a further explanation, and I believe the individual's here, so we can get it in firsthand.
Sure.
That there is no political connection or nexus. I know we've had a concern in the past with potential litigation, and I need to protect the
Sure.
Board of Education before I make any recommendations.
Well, I
on
was
facilities.
assured by her that there was none. Would you like to speak? I know this is not, could you just please identify yourself?
Yeah, my name is Yvonne Won-Yoon. I'm from Team Palisades Park, okay? So, we like, what we like to do is, we like to have get to know each other, our community. So, the way that we're gonna organize this meeting is we're gonna invite a couple of speakers. so that they can kind of good story about other town, how communicate can build up stronger. And also, we like to have some of networking event. It is, I guarantee it's not gonna be political, okay?
Okay.
So that's how we're gonna organize the meeting.
So it's a communication transparency
Right.
meeting,
Exactly.
open to everyone.
For all residents, Christine?
I'm sorry, oh yeah,
All
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 residents.
residents.
Except the speakers. Some
Mhm.
speaker I may have to, invite them from outside.
And they will be here non-political, they're here just to
Non-political.
explain everything.
Non-political.
Okay.
There's a motion and a second. There's gotta be a roll call on it.
Right. Okay, any other discussion?
I just had, the estimated is 50 to 100, and I don't know if the social distancing guidelines will change by then, but I just wanna make sure we can accommodate that there'll be proper spacing and that volume of people.
Sure.
Okay.
That should be, yeah, that's no problem.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion?
And also we have to prepare sanitizers, and kind of safety issue too.
Sure, I mean, if the school has some kind of guideline that you have to follow, let me know.
Thank you.
So that we can follow.
Great. Okay, do we supply for any groups coming in sanitizers and
No.
things like that?
No.
We'll
We never
bring
do.
everything.
Okay.
What I got, from the Diane, is, the couple of things. One is the fee that we need to pay, and the other one is the insurance certificate.
Yes.
So, but in addition to that, in terms of, COVID related
Right.
instruction, let me know, send me, my email so that, we can follow.
Thank you.
And Christine, you prefer March 29th, did you say?
Yeah, either one is.
Because there's 2 days.
Which one is your preference?
March 29 is a preferred.
Okay,
The 29th?
29.
What day will be that, March?
It's a Tuesday.
Okay. Any other discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Dr. Matarazzo?
Yes.
Yun Min?
Yes.
Annie Garcia?
Yes.
Sue Chung?
Yes.
Kevin Lim?
Yes?
Peter Longo?
Yes.
John Madison?
Yes.
Charlie Schiff?
Yes.
Thank you. Next one is personnel. Ms. Min.
Okay, President, before us, we have 9 resolutions. I'd like to make a motion as the consent agenda.
Great. Second on that?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I'm sorry, who's the second? Oh, I'm sorry.
If not, okay, roll call, please.
Dr. Matarazzo?
Yes.
Yun Min?
Yes?
Annie Garcia?
Yes.
Sue Chung?
Yes.
Kevin Lim?
Yes?
Peter Longo?
Yes.
John Madison? Charlie Schiff?
Yes.
And I recuse myself on number 4, please. Thank you. Okay, next one will be curriculum, Mr. Longo.
In mid-January, New Jersey became the second state to require Asian American and Pacific Islander history to be infused in the curriculum. By the 2022-2023 school year, this new mandate should be reflected in our studies at both schools. With this in mind, I visited Mrs. Tennant, our Director of Curriculum, to discuss how the school system is preparing for this new requirement. Since this is relatively a new mandate, I think it was passed in January, mid-January, not much guidance or resources have been provided to the New Jersey schools. However, all of this will be forthcoming. If it hasn't been done already, the state will appoint a 21-member committee which will advise school districts on best practices for implementing Asian American and Pacific Islander studies. In the future, there may be an Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. I think they're saying something like May, and it could be this year or maybe next year, I'm not sure. A resource guide will be created and provided to schools and communities to suggest ideas for what can be done for this month. In order to inform the teachers about this mandate, PD sessions, professional development sessions, were held in the Early Childhood Center and Lindbergh School. They probably met by grade level. At the high school, this topic was discussed at department meetings. And there have been other mandates to include in the curriculum, and I think at that time, those areas were discussed. Mrs. Tennant attends meetings of the Bergen County Curriculum Consortium and will keep faculty informed of what she learns. And I think a lot will be coming out. You know, I'm sure book publishers and people who create websites will be coming out with a lot of information and activities that will help aid us to infuse this in our curriculum.
Excellent. And it'll be done K through 12.
K through 12, it's a requirement.
Great, great. Okay, so you'll keep us informed and
Yes,
let us
as I
know
hear
as
more.
you find out the information. Very good. Also, in the curriculum, I know Mrs. Chung, Sue wanted to have a curriculum.
Yes,
Curriculum concern.
yes,
You wanted to have a meeting.
yes, she told me. Yes.
Okay, good. So you could arrange
We
what
could
date.
arrange, yeah.
What date would be the best?
Well, I told them what dates I'm available.
Good.
I'm more flexible because I'm not working.
Right.
Except for babysitting
Okay.
duties.
That's work.
But otherwise.
Okay,
you
so
know,
you'll let us know.
Tuesday and Thursdays, better.
I'll
You know
make sure
what,
I'm there.
I could work it out.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, there's no motion on that, and I thank you for that report. Next one will be negotiations, and Ms. Garcia.
We have reached a memorandum of agreement with the PPAA, so that brings us up to speed. We're all caught up with all of the unions, and after today's meeting, that we'll discuss the details of the PPAA MOA and during closed session, but it brings us up to date with all of the unions that service the school.
Excellent, excellent, thank you very much. Next one would be policy. Again, Ms. Garcia.
As we all know, Governor Murphy has indicated that they will not be renewing the mask mandates. So we just received notification from NJSBA indicating the update on face coverings, and I'll let Dr. Cirillo get into the details of what that means.
Sure, thank you. So clearly on March 7th, the state of New Jersey no longer in public schools will be enforcing a mandatory mask wearing mandate. With that being said, we have a policy that speaks to mask wearing. After this evening, we have to update our policy accordingly, because if there is no mandate, we have to have a policy that is reflective of something that will be compliant. I spoke to the health department like I do often today, and the response from the health department was based on the community spread, the school spread. What I can say publicly tonight is, and it's not my words, but an optional masking policy effective March 7th is acceptable. However, and this is the important part, the policy should also require mask wearing in the following circumstances: during periods of elevated community transmission, when COVID-19 activity level index, the Cali matrix that we all see the different colors, is elevated at either the red or the orange level. We don't need to come before the board again. I will send correspondence that says it's mandatory. That's what our policy will reflect, number one. Number two, during an active outbreak or a general increase in cases, if the local health department tells me that she is concerned about numbers rising and she recommends that masks be mandatory, I will make it mandatory. Number three, after returning from isolation or quarantine, students and staff who return to school during days 6 through 10 of isolation or quarantine will be required to wear the mask. No ifs, ands, or buts. Number four, when illness occurs in school, students or staff who become ill with symptoms consistent with COVID-19 while in school should wear a mask until they leave the premises. And number five, and this is something that we are working very hard with our school nurses and administrators. If applicable, during test to stay, students and or faculty members participating in test to stay should be required to wear a mask. So, in summary, the new policy 5141.10, which I am recommending to the board for approval, pretty much says that because there's no longer a mandatory mask wearing, students and staff members are not required to wear face coverings during the school day unless directed to do so by the chief school administrator. That's my position. After I hear from the health department, if she tells me that on March 9th or 10th, excuse me, I think the 9th is a weekend, 7th, maybe I'm wrong. Regardless, if the 7th was a Monday and she tells me on the 8th the transmission is high, guess what? Parents will be alerted that the next school day, everyone's back in masks. I am not waiting for a board meeting. Our policy allows me to do that instantly. So I appreciate New Jersey School Boards giving us this resource. I will also concur with all area superintendents like I always do. And I can tell you that all surrounding districts are complying with this. It's almost impossible to make something mandatory when the executive order expires. Masks are required on all school buses, vans, or any method of transportation involving students.
That's on trips, sporting events, et
Anywhere.
cetera.
When we transport our special education children to other placements, the mask is required.
Great.
Masks are also, again, permissible by anyone at any time. It is a personal choice by a parent, a guardian, or a student if he or she, or they, him or her, are wanting to wear a mask.
Thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion on that.
I'll make a motion.
Second on that?
I second.
Any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Dr. Matarazza.
Yes.
Young Min,
Yes?
and Yesca Garcia.
Yes.
Sue Chung,
Yes.
Kevin Lim,
Yes.
Peter Longo,
Yes.
John Madison.
Yes.
Charlie Schiff.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Next, PTA, PTSA, Ms. Jung.
Oh yeah, I've been brought up with PTA, and I anticipate there will be huge change in that, but at this moment, it has no reports.
Okay, thank you, but you are in contact with them
Right.
and, great, thank you so much. Next item would be student activities, field trips, Ms. Min.
Yes, President, we have 3 resolutions. So, before ours, we
four.
have, we have 3 resolutions. So I'd like to make a motion as the consent agenda.
Okay, great, there's 4 different
Oh,
motions.
4, okay.
4.
I have old one. We
Okay,
have 4.
so you resolve on that, and a second on that? Okay, any discussion
You get the second?
on any of the trips?
I second. You made the motion, I second.
Any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Dr. Matarazza.
Yes.
Young Min.
Yes?
And Yesca Garcia.
Yes.
Sue Chung,
Yes.
Kevin Lim,
Yes.
Peter Longo,
Yes.
John Madison.
Yes.
Charlie Schiff.
Yes.
Thank you. Next one will be calendar food services. I don't think there's a report. Mr. Pitt is not here, so we'll move on. We will now get to any old business.
Yes, for, to approve, the ERC service contract.
Okay. Do, we have a resolution on that?
Correct.
Yes. Anyone would like to make a resolution?
There is a resolution.
I'm sorry?
Diane said there was a resolution.
There is one already?
Is this the one, Sarah Kimball?
Yes.
Yeah.
Here's,
Sarah.
right here.
Yes. I'm saying, do
But,
we have?
yeah, one of the handouts that I gave.
Yes.
you. Yeah.
Someone needs to make the motion.
I'll make a motion.
And second on that?
I will second it.
Any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Dr. Matarazza.
Yes.
Young Min.
Yes.
And Yesca Garcia.
Yes.
Sue Chung,
Yes.
Kevin Lim,
Yes.
Peter Longo,
Yes.
John Madison.
Yes.
Charlie Schiff.
Yes.
Okay, the next one would be new business, and I crossed off.
I have
those
2 resolutions I am seeking. The first one would be the submission of the 2021 self-assessment on harassment, intimidation, and bullying from our school principals. Motion and a second,
Motion
please.
on that, please?
I'll
On-
make a motion.
Second on that?
I second.
Any discussion? That's on bullying.
Peter Longo. This is the HIB self-assessment submission. What we are required to do is do an
Every year.
internal, review of our presentations, our findings, and then the state reviews it and gives a final grade, a HIB grade. So we are doing our part, and then they reply
They do their part.
accordingly.
Okay.
Yeah, can I ask about the yearly plan submission, means the 3 years plan? What we
That was
want?
actually,
I made a
that's a
mistake.
typo, that is done already last month,
Yeah.
the ELL submission, I apologize, I should have mentioned that.
Any other discussion on that? If not, roll call, please.
Dr. Matarazzo.
Yes.
Lin.
Yes.
Aniesco Garcia.
Yes.
Sue Chung. Yes. Kevin Lynn.
Yes.
Peter Longo.
Yes.
John Madison.
Yes.
Charlie Shay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the second resolution I am seeking is again during the NJ GPA, Graduation Proficiency Assessment, is a delayed opening schedule for all students at the junior, senior high school, with the exception of 11th grade on Monday the 14th, Tuesday the 15th. We are skipping Wednesday because it is already a scheduled half-day, but the testing must be done during that week. So it'll be Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, ELA and mathematics. I am seeking a delayed opening for testing purposes. It has been done in the past.
God forbid we have an inclement weather.
I'm sure the state will accommodate and allow for an extension.
Okay, great. Do I have a resolution on that?
I make a resolution.
Second on that?
I second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Are the 11th graders going to school that day? or-
11th graders will report at regular time, Peter, just like when we ran testing at the high school. It's always, it's clearly a very serious assessment that has to happen, one that we want to ensure that every junior, proctors, examiners, everyone in the building is prepared to examine those students during that week. All other students, as you are well aware, are required to submit 4 hours for it to count as a full day. They will enter, I believe, third period, which is at 10:15. Guys, gals in the back, 10:15 is third period? Yes? 10:07. So don't be late. I gave you a couple extra minutes. Don't do what you did in Orlando. Show up late. 10:07, Peter. They'll be in by 10. They'll have more or less a delayed opening schedule. They will be dismissed accordingly. Thank you.
Okay. Did we have a resolution?
We had a first, we had a second, we did a roll call.
Right, roll call, please.
Dr. Matarazzo.
Yes.
Lin.
Yes.
Aniesco Garcia.
Yes.
Sue Chung.
Yes.
Kevin Lynn.
Yes.
Peter
Absolutely.
Longo.
Yes.
John Madison.
Yes.
Charlie Shay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next one would be audience participation. And again, identify yourself, limit to 3 minutes. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Stephanie Jang, and I'm so glad to watch, this meeting is going very well. Everyone's studying your agenda, and I can tell, all of you are really proficient
Thank
of
you
what
very
you're
much.
doing. Thank you so much. And also, I have a question for getting rid of the mask. What about the personal space? Is it like we still have to keep it, or?
Yeah. So the language in the Department of Health guidelines that was released yesterday, Ms. Jang, it speaks to 6 feet or the maximum extent practical. As you are well aware, our schools were not built with COVID in mind. We are, again, fortunate that we can be within 6 feet this evening, but in our classrooms, I would not sit here and lie to you and say that we are 6 feet. We are at our maximum extent practical. That's where many of the other factors come into play that I had mentioned. And one of the bigger ones has been the Test to Stay program. So I do have tests currently, we purchased them. The state of New Jersey is offering those to school districts, but that's 5 school districts a week are being afforded that. So I could not wait and hope and fingers crossed that we were one of the 5.
Mm-hmm.
We made a purchase of tests. In the event children are showing symptoms, I hope parents keep the child home. But if and when they are in school and or a close contact, with parental consent, I promise you, we have a form. No swab is going to be taken without, you don't want us to do it, I want to try to accommodate the community. But, again, if you want to take them to your pediatrician, they're your children, please do so.
But we will have it done by the school nurse.
If, again, we are working that out with the school nurses, we are ensuring that they are comfortable in doing so. I cannot first of all, it's the parent's right. If the parent does want me to swab a child, they have the right to say no.
That's right.
They have the right to take their child to whomever they would like to be swabbing them. Again, this is just an opportunity for us to attempt to work together. We have tests available. It is not mandatory that I test your children.
And they all locked up, I think, when we were going around, you showed us.
Well, those were the actual tests for the faculty members. The
Right.
unvaccinated are still required to be submitted once a week. The actual test to stay is a rapid antigen test. It's what we all bought at CVS, and they were gauging up the prices on us. Nowadays, the prices, because the supply is available, are a little bit more, reasonable, and we did make a purchase. We do have them. Again, we have a few weeks.
Sure.
March 7th, I know is not that far away, but it'll be here before we know it. I believe it's not Monday, it's next Monday. So we'll be prepared. Masks are still something that are gonna be worn by so many faculty and staff and students. It's not going away. I don't think it should go away. But I also know if it's not mandatory, we have to update our policy accordingly.
Right, thank you. And can
You're
I
welcome.
say just one more thing?
Of course.
As of a councilwoman, I have a liaison with the school board. We have police force serving for school districts, right? And the town pays for them. And I just would like to know if their activities is satisfying, from the school side. So, I want you to, look around and like if those services are proper and if you are satisfied with them. So I will keep on coming for every meeting. So I would like to talk
I
about
guess
the
you
next
can give
meeting.
that report.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, ultimately, Ms. Jang, too, and again, I know we don't like, and again, everyone has a different way of doing this. I don't know if we engage in conversation. Some people like that. Some people will take all the questions and then comment.
I have no problem doing it this way.
The truth is, we have, and I'm grateful, like I've said from day one, we have an SRO, and we have one Class 3 officer that is being funded by the local municipal government, and I'm very grateful for that. We don't have the money in our budget to do it. So with that being said, I am constantly in touch with the police department. They don't report to me, they're not my employees.
Sure.
So clearly, if there are concerns, I voice those. But Dr. Matarazzo as well has touched base with Sean Lee numerous times, I know.
Yes.
We are in constant communication.
In fact, I'm still waiting to hear from him about arranging a meeting because we had some glitches. Nothing major, but that we wanted to straighten out. So maybe if you could ask him if he could contact Dr. Searle's office, we could arrange for that meeting, that'd be great.
Right, because they are hired by the residents' tax money.
Yes.
I want, all of them to do a good
Yeah,
job.
because there are some little glitches that we have to straighten out.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Yubong Won-yoon. Just for my curiosity, you said you have, there is assessments coming up regarding harassment and, bullying, right? Does the scope of that include online as well?
Yes, ma'am. So there is
That's good.
the assessment was already completed by our school administrators. It is a self-assessment. It's more of a survey, and you can grade yourself in a category 1 through 3, 1, 2, 3, 3 being the best. Bullying can happen anywhere, as we are well aware.
So that is more like self-assessment means what, from the students?
No, from our school, from our administrators. Do we offer professional development? Do we train our employees? Do we investigate in a timely manner? There are many factors.
So, I think that's what I wanna understand. How do you actually assess ourselves? Is there any report?
Yes, the state offers a template. You can score points based on your, again, compliance in certain categories. In the past, I can tell you, and I don't give the number tonight because the state has yet to review our number. But in the past, if you can score a potential 78, we've been in the 73, 74 range, which is extremely satisfactory
So
to me.
the report, if I wanna see the report.
It is on our
can I-
website, Ms.
Oh,
Yoon.
on the website.
So yes, under the Board of Education page, you can scroll and you can see HIB, harassment, intimidation, bullying. So every year after the state determines our grade, it is on the website, it's required to be there.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Marie Rivera, 510 Glen Avenue. Back to the whole COVID and the mask thing.
now that numbers are dropping and you can no longer mandate the mask, before, when the children first started school, it was a 14-day quarantine if you travel or if you come in contact, and now I noticed that the numbers were brought down to 10 days. Are we looking to bring that down any further?
It's a great question, ma'am. Today I had a meeting actually with the 3 school nurses, with the principals and the 12-month employees in our school district, all directors. And the conversation started with, we did drop the number from 14 to 10, return on the 11th day with no symptoms. Faculty, because we were starting to be really concerned right after the holidays about shortages, we went from, when the state allowed it, you can return on the 6th day, provided no symptoms, which is permissible. The reason we have yet to do that with children, and I did not say I wouldn't do that yet, the reason why is, number one, I just said, and factually, we have to encourage that all students wear the mask on days 6 through 10. It is almost impossible to have a student eat lunch with a mask on. If you can figure out a way, I would love to find out how. With that being said, I would be more than happy to consider it even further if the parent permitted me to segregate their child during the lunch hour. The problem becomes, if I segregate, there's a potential liability. I am not permitted to take your child, God forbid he or she was positive, and say, you go eat over there while everyone else eat over here. Hence, it's a safety concern at this point, but it's also one of, let's ensure that the health and well-being of the children is not compromised. For faculty members, we have a few sitting before us. They sometimes, if they're in that 6 to 10 category, are required to wear it. And during lunch, may go sit in their car privately. I can't do that with children yet. So I will tell you, we are revisiting the child days 6 through 10. It was discussed today, I promise you that much.
And that includes travel?
So with travel, there's still Department of Health guidance, and upon all of this conversation tonight, I will be sharing another community update like I've been doing since the start of COVID. I know April is right around the corner. I know people are planning trips.
Right.
For the record, I know the dance team took a train, but they were in Orlando. I said I was there. I took a plane.
Oh, right.
Masks were required. Masks were required in the airports, in the airplanes. Ladies, gentlemen, was anyone wearing a mask at the convention center when you performed? I don't think COVID exists in Florida. Sorry, let's keep politics out. Anyway, the sun does shine, I promise you that much. But for the record, there will be travel guidance updated, communicated to all families. Additionally, I will promise you that I want children back in school quicker than 11th day. I want them in the school on the 6th day. But I have to also ensure that there's a mutual understanding that if I offer a separate classroom for your child to eat in, that I am not opening up our district to any potential litigation. And that poses a problem, because I don't want to isolate any child, ever. But if I say that they have to wear a mask on days 6 through 10, but they have to have lunch, that means the mask has to come off somewhere, but I can't expose them. It's very complicated at this point.
Can someone explain to me the reasoning behind, before when it was the 14-day and I had to travel with my children, not only did I have to quarantine them for the 14 days, but I also had to present a negative PCR. Why couldn't it be either or?
I never made that a requirement.
It wasn't, and we kept battering back and forth, like, I need someone to tell me, they're like, oh, the CDC, and I'm like, no, the CDC does not require that.
I will tell you wholeheartedly, I never heard that before, and if one of our schools communicated that to you, I apologize. That was not a requirement. Once you satisfy the time period.
Right, that's how
That was
I
it.
just, okay, I will keep them home, I didn't wanna get them swabbed, my son, when,
And I
very
appreciate,
early on, he had it,
the
you know.
families maybe like yourself that were honest with us and said that we traveled to regions outside that required the quarantine, because I know there were others that took advantage of it. And again, if you were fully vaccinated, it was one thing, but children sometimes weren't. So again, there was no requirement for that. I apologize if someone misinformed you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other, yes?
Hi, my name is Papota from Fort Glen Avenue. I know Sue mentioned about the PTA reorganization that is gonna be. I would like to get more info about that. I know you still working on it and that. And, I would like to see when you do that to include, email to the parent, some kind of information for more parents to get involved in the PTA. Because that will be very successful for our students, to the parent to get involved in our, school. And this is a way to do it, when the parent participate. And also I have another question, and
Well, on that one, can we ask maybe the president of the PTA?
Sure, thanks for picking that up. Actually, that was one of the biggest, plan that I had. But at this moment that I need to speak with their president first. And I will be working with other PTA members, but not the president. That's the reason that I didn't want things to be open in the public. And this, I think I'll make it chance to speak with her before I'm opening up what I'm doing in public. And I've been working with New Jersey PTA and just a few members of Palisades PTA and then Korean Parents Group, and I also notify you for your other parents group and some other parents groups and all residents and even not the residents can be participating in our PTA to support our kids in Palisades Park.
And
So,
do they post their agenda and the minutes? Maybe we could ask that as well. This way, the
I'm trying
people.
to, but still waiting for the answer.
Okay, great.
we haven't received the EPA, information for years.
Really?
For me, being member before in the past, I always was receiving, but lately I haven't received no EPA.
Okay, so maybe if we could
Nothing
ask, I
I
don't
was
know,
going to-
the president is I'm sure you can reach her, and then we'll get back to you at the next meeting, how's
Yeah,
that?
I would like to get
Great.
more in that. And
No
also I have
problem.
a question in
Sure.
this, I see that you guys, is gonna rental, high school, gymnasium. Like, it says, it's gonna be like a rental from, July 11 to the 19. You guys don't have the info about the fee and all those things. I would like to get more information in that, and what do we do with that income that will come from that, income to our school?
Okay,
Because I know it's gonna be a fee and
yes,
for that,
Dr. Cirillo can answer that.
yeah, okay, thank you.
So, thank you, it's a very good question, it's a very important question. So for the better part of the last 13, 14 years, we've rented our high school facility to a private organization. It's the Ask Church, which, again, has been a very wonderful partner. And the fee is to be determined technically. The number that you see there is what it was in prior years, because they had more classrooms being utilized, more facilities. Because of COVID, they didn't require so much. But what I can tell you, so much of those funds are to offset some of our costs. We are, as you know, capped with 2% annually with our tax levy. And again, we are doing so many renovations and repairs in our schools. But that's happening more recent than years past because, again, so much money has been afforded to us from coronavirus relief. That 20,000 that's mentioned there is only a number that's utilized as a reference point to what it was in the past. They are, I will tell you, very accommodating partners. Not only do they assist us with scholarships to graduating seniors, but in the past, if classrooms needed air conditioning, because they're technically in our schools from July 11th, I think, until August 19th. It's the hottest 2 months of the year. They supply those air conditions. They give them to us. They're donations. So again, it's a reciprocal respect. I'm very pleased that they seek to come back annually. It's a little bit of a struggle because our custodial staff has to prepare the building for September, but I think we've become more diligent about working around them and them working around us.
And I was at that meeting today, and we have not raised in how many years? The fee?
Not that, I don't remember the
It's
last
been
time
the
it was
same.
raised. Again, it's based on their use as well. It's based on square footage.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the audience? Yes, sir.
Okay, I have one suggestion, okay? A lot of residents I met okay, I have concern that their school money may be used to non-resident kids in Palisades Park schools, okay? So like the new school year, before the new school year start, okay, I'd like to ask to present the Palisades Park School District the evaluation system for the new coming students. So
They have to present the documentation,
yes,
and I know
document
that
or like and
Dr.
we
Cirillo has always been on top of that.
Right,
You
yeah,
know,
so-
and, you know, maybe you wanna
like the next month's meeting, okay, we see that
The
all the
what's required?
yeah, all the
Sure.
evaluation systems, then we collect the other people's idea also, we review, we compare the other neighboring towns, the system.
Yeah.
And then we
We
can
also
collect
have
the
an
better ideas
officer.
to make it better, yes.
Yeah, and we also have an officer that goes and checks to make sure, I know that.
Not only the individual, the investigation system, but
Sure.
also there could be a lot of the other systems.
Okay. Dr. Cirillo can answer that.
Again, I think prior to COVID, I went public and said that we were gonna do a re-registration of our students. That's what you're talking about, a re-registration.
Mhm.
Regardless if you've been in this community for 10 years or 10 minutes, you were gonna have to prove that you belong here still.
Right.
I can tell you, Mr. Shin, I'd be more than happy to do that. But I also need compliance and cooperation from our local town government.
Sure.
Because there are so many families in this community, I've said it for a long time now, that may reside here without the proper documentation. And that is something that the mayor, the council, the governing body, again, when I was a landlord, no longer do I have any property. I wanna be a dad and a superintendent of schools to the best of my ability, but when I was a landlord, I was required in that town where I owned a home, that my tenants annually had to prove residency. Now, that was kept at the town government. It's easy for me to track who lives here and who doesn't if I worked with those facilities. I can't, again, when a parent comes to me and says, I live in Palisades Park, I cannot deny them an education. I can offer them something based on our registration requirements. They have 30 days to prove that they live here. And when we suspect they do not live here, we do have a residency officer hired by this Board of Education, a retired officer, Mr. Steve Thompson, who gives us analysis and feedback based on his reviews.
Like next month's meeting, we could invite more the councilmen from the town.
Well, she's
council,
always here.
and not only Stephanie, but
Well,
also
she's
the
the
other
liaison, so maybe-
councilmen, and when you present such things,
Yeah,
we
maybe-
can ask them to
maybe
cooperate each other, yeah.
you can
Not
invite
to use
them
our,
and
our tax money to the other people,
Sure.
non-qualified people.
Please push me.
Yeah, you know what, you can invite the rest of the council and mayor about, the request, and, if maybe you can get us some information for next month, that'd be great.
Yeah.
With campaign time, they will be here. All of
Yeah,
them. For
thank you,
sure,
okay.
for sure.
Any other questions?
Just about director, when you said about the officer, what kind of people, are they like police officers?
Yes, he's a retired police officer
Okay.
that we hired, I think in September.
He is a school employee. He no longer is an active police officer. He does not go in uniform. We have learned that, again, there are some families that if you present yourself in a police uniform, families are concerned. We are not there to scare people. We are there to establish that you are residents of this community. And there are procedures. We need to ensure that there is a bed, that there is a pillow, that there is clothing, that there is a toothbrush. We again, are not the police. Our
So
responsibility in a
the
public
officers-
school is to offer a free and appropriate public education to residents.
So the officers belong to the Board of Ed, and
Yes.
then what else you are actually, needs cooperation from the town? though?
Yes.
It's about the
What I need
registration?
ultimately is, there are some illegal apartments, Ms. Chung. Again, if they tell me they live in a basement apartment, and I can prove that they live in a basement apartment, but that basement apartment is illegal, I cannot throw them out. I have to educate them. I can't say it any clearer. There are other families, again, these are safety concerns. If there is a one-bedroom apartment in a apartment complex, but there are 7 people living in it, that could be a fire safety concern.
Sure.
Again, This is something that we have to collaborate and work together on.
And I do know that if, God forbid, someone is homeless, it's the last place that they lived in. If they're living in the Englewood shelter or Hackensack shelter, we still have an obligation to educate them. So if, the last place of residence. So I know there's a lot of ramifications go along.
They are qualified students.
Yes.
There could be
Yes.
some non-qualified students.
Yes. Okay, that's good. Excellent point. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
My name is Sun Kim, resident of 464 Glen Avenue. Previously, my wife and I participated in November and December meeting of last year regarding our daughter's incident on November 9th. And I would like to follow up on two things. First, written apology. We requested by email and reminded again in person at the December meeting to Cicillo and Benchoy. However, we have not received anything yet, so I would appreciate it if you could share the updated status. Second, the implementation of a new protocol. Thanks to Cicillo, he was preparing the implementation of a new the protocol regarding parents' consent before the STEM members' decision on children. And I want to confirm if the new protocol has been implemented and truly executed by school STEM members. Those two things.
Okay, and point number one,
Yeah.
I believe that the report was given to the Board of Ed,
Okay.
and I think it was determined by the investigation by the attorney, the previous one,
Right.
in the report that we have, that there was no negligence.
Okay.
So therefore, there was no apology, to my knowledge, that was needed or required.
Okay.
On the second point, I think the policy, Dr. Cirillo.
So as far as the protocol, we have worked with the school administration, with the faculty and the staff who would be potentially administering the changing of the wet or soiled garments.
Okay.
We want to ensure that we are doing this in an appropriate manner, and that means we are held back by one item. We need changing tables. I don't want to put a child on the floor and be criticized for changing someone on a hardwood floor or on a bathroom floor. Changing tables have been ordered. As soon as they are in place, and again, in those facilities, we have a procedure. I actually shared with you originally that procedure. It will be shared with all family. Again, we started that process a few weeks ago. Again, it's consent. Parents don't have to agree. If they don't agree, unfortunately, they are inconvenienced with a phone call. They would have to come and assist us. But we are rolling everything out as we speak.
The changing table would be good for a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, an 8-year-old, or a 10-year-old.
No, it's this building, 3 or 4 and
Only this
5-year-old. 3, 4 and 5-year-old, if there's an 8-year-old in this building, we are doing a bad job. 3, 4 and 5-year-olds are in this
So
building.
only in this.
This
facility.
building needs changing tables. That's my concern right now.
Are you Mr. Lim's husband?
That's correct.
Okay. Actually, that's one of the things I was asked earlier, that I remember that I asked you about this incident last month during the closing section, but I didn't really see that in the meeting minutes. But I still have a very big curious, and still I believe that this is really remains uncertainty. And that report is confidential, so I cannot really open it up or speak about it here, but as a board member, that I want, when I spoke to other members about that, what I found, if something is wrong, then I had the impression that most of them didn't read the report, and so I really couldn't discuss about it. So, can I bring it up for next meeting? And I'd like to ask you to read, and in my understanding that the report has to be carried on in fair, transparent, accurate way, but for me.
I have the report here, and as a board
Right.
member, I believe you, right, she has the,
Yeah.
right, that she could see this report?
I
A
saw
board
it.
member.
She
Yeah, I
already,
saw it.
it's my understanding that,
I
Mr. Chang
actually I
already
saw it very
She has a
early,
copy.
Yeah, she
early
was-
January, that's why I
Okay.
brought that up for the.
Okay, so you
last-
have a report from Ben Choi?
Right, in early January.
Okay, I
So-
didn't know that, okay,
So, yeah, I'm understanding because the investigation, I believe that has to be in the fair way between parents and the school
Sure.
staff. But in my view, that it was way leaned to the school side. And I remember that me and Mr. Sin and Mr. Miss Me, we are running mates for this last election.
Right.
And our first promise is
Yeah, that-
we're standing for the parents and students. So I don't wanna feel like I'm not competent to just,
Right, the
even though on
previous
the
board,
parent side.
the
So
previous board concluded that it was this report that we accepted, and again, it was no negligence was determined, which I'm grateful
can
for.
we reopen the case and see?
I
if
don't
there's
know, can we reopen the case that was already closed? I don't know.
Well, actually, I mean, I haven't seen the minutes or how the vote went, you know, who, like the numbers of the votes in favor of
Okay.
the Mr. Choi's conclusion. But actually, there is a way to make a motion for reconsideration by one of the members who actually voted for Mr. Choi's conclusion.
So in other words, if someone voted yes,
Yes,
then they could bring up,
they can start
but it would
motion
only,
for.
it would only be then one vote. What about, it would negate the other people's pleasure?
That's a procedure according to Robert's rule.
Right.
To bring a motion for reconsideration.
So someone
member-
who was on the board,
Yeah.
even though they voted yes,
Yes.
they could bring up that they wanna change it and they wanna
Correct.
reopen it?
Yeah,
Okay.
revisit and then, open,
Okay.
the issue, but of course it has to be second by.
By another board member that
Correct.
was on the board at that time.
Correct.
Okay, so maybe for the next meeting, would that be okay? I don't know if anybody on the board, who was on the board then want to reopen it. Is there any comments on that?
I'm just gonna comment, I just wanna be clear, the findings were that there was no legal negligence.
Correct.
And that is a legal definition, so sometimes what the law says applies is wrong here, but it is the legal standard that is held. So, under the legal definition, the way the law defines negligence is a conclusion of negligence, is a legal term. It doesn't make it right as a parent, it doesn't make it right as a human being. So that was the conclusion based on the standard of law, based on the totality of the circumstances, based on the investigations, based on the interviews, based on the videos. And just to let you know, as a board, because I'm a parent, I have my children are in the school system, we went against counsel because we understood, under the advice of our previous counsel, to even give your family access to the video, because we understood as a parent, legal issues and legal standards aside, I would be very anxious and I would wanna know exactly. So we went against the advice of counsel to try and be accommodating. That being said, that was the legal conclusion. It may not be a practical conclusion. Juries all the time come back with things that are impractical, but they apply the standard of law, and that's the conclusion. So as a human being, I understand that it doesn't make sense, or it may not compute. I understand that, but according to the legal standard that was applied and the advice of counsel, that was the conclusion.
I'll ask a question, because that when there's a investigation report came out, it's confidential and the parents cannot see and anybody here sitting there cannot see it. But I saw it because I'm a board member, but I see huge, I feel really something is wrong, because the investigation was only done in the school side. There is no conversation or any transaction or any.
I don't know, I disagree from what we were told.
The parents.
I believe the parents
If
spoke.
there's wrong information there, how they could know? And then if there's just concluded as a non-negligence, then how we have to just believe it when I'm not thinking it's right?
Well, we can have the previous attorney come and speak. He said he's willing to come at any time
Because
to carry over.
before January, I was in the board, I was
Right.
in the parent side.
No, I understand that.
So I had the chances to spoke with the mom. So my knowledge was way different from what I heard,
Right.
what I saw.
Right,
from
just
the-
what you heard. But
Right,
we
that's
can-
one thing that I cannot let things go, because.
Sure.
My purpose is not to accuse anybody personally, just I think this is not the right procedure to
Okay, we can ask the previous attorney to come here to explain again his findings and why and who he communicated to. Because I was on the board then, as many of us were.
Wasn't
Tomo-
in the closed session, we had the mother
That was
here.
discussed.
We
Yes.
discussed it with the mother,
Correct.
and she accepted our
Yes,
findings.
yes, but you weren't here for that, I believe, correct?
Accepting the finding?
No, not you, sir.
No.
No, the closed session
And
with the board.
it was
Closed session.
discussed, and
She's
that's
closed
when it
session.
was
It was.
concluded. Again, if, the previous board, who he would have to speak to, already heard it. You follow what I'm saying? So they would have to bring something up, but all the members that were on the previous board are here now, correct? And I don't know if anybody has to rehear it, I don't know, is there anyone who was on the board that need to hear it again?
I think that, and again, I want to be very conscious and cautious in how we speak to this matter, but that asks two questions specifically.
Yes.
For a written apology and about procedures, and I stand corrected. All procedures have already been implemented. Almost all parents have complied with those new procedures. That was shared with all families, I believe, on February 10th. I'm getting a couple nods behind you, so I know that's true. And unfortunately, we look at this as a learning opportunity. Can we have done things differently? Clearly, we updated our procedures. So I apologize to you and your family. I told you where I stood on this case, and I know that it's in my best interest, and I said it publicly before. I want your kids back in school. And I know that's a difficult decision at this point for you and your family, but I know the importance of being with their peers. Again, I can speak to you privately, but know that the procedures have been implemented or being followed. Changing tables have arrived. That's great news. So changes have been made, I promise you.
Okay?
So there's the protocol came out yet?
Protocols have gone out to all families. That was sent out in 3 languages on February 10th.
Okay.
There was consent sought by those families, and I received communication just minutes ago that almost all families have complied with this.
So I can see this, my conversation in next meeting minutes, because I don't want it to be missed.
This conversation that you're
Right.
having, I'm sure again, I don't want to speak for the board secretary, but the minutes are a synopsis. If you want to just speak to that, please.
It's just a general overview. I don't go into every detail in the minutes. They're posted on the website. The closed sessions, I do not post on the website. They're given separately to the board members. I'm almost sure I did a closed session January 10th, I believe it was. I don't know why you didn't get it. It was very brief. There wasn't a lot of detail in it. I mean, Dr. Matarazzo, you have the entire file from Mr. Choi.
Yes.
Can you share it with Ms. Choi?
She has one, she has a copy.
Oh, you have the entire file?
She has, yeah, she got
I
it
received or
Oh, okay, so that's really everything in it, there's nothing left to be uncovered.
Because I remember that I brought this issue in closed section, I didn't see it in the minutes, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, she doesn't put it
I
in.
didn't want to be missed.
She said it was not in the minutes, the closed session, but you said you don't put closed session in the
It was
minutes.
not online, but I'm sure I sent it, if I didn't, I'll resend it tomorrow to you.
Okay.
I don't post closed
Yeah.
session minutes.
So there's no need to have then the previous attorney come and explain that. Okay? Yes, ma'am?
Just one question related to that. I mean, as a resident, that case was shocked. But anyway, I'm glad that the protocol is being changed and implemented.
Yes.
But I wonder, is that protocol include the procedure when a child goes to nurse, what happened? I mean, that's actually what I'm interested.
This is a new toileting guideline. This is a procedure regarding toileting, not when they go to the nurse.
So, but does
And
the
let's be
school-
cautious about how we're categorizing individuals. No one has been right,
Yeah.
and there's only one of those employees in this building, so let's be very
That's
careful.
not what I'm trying to do, right? Usually when anything happens, a child goes to nurse, and the nurse, I expect nurse is writing some kind of
Sure.
report, right? There's some kind of procedure to follow. And that's what I was actually interested,
So, Ms.
I
Yoon,
wonder.
if I may, and again, I know you're very intelligent, and please don't take this the wrong way, but I take minutes. I'm writing just notes down. This is not Oprahable. These are my notes. These are my records. I know the nurse has records. I know employees, when and if I was a school administrator in a building. Whenever I talk to a child, I have a record of the children I speak to. When I speak to parents, I make a record. Those are my records. That is for me. If it is disseminated via email, if I share it publicly, you have every right for that. But again, and if she has something like this of the students she treats, these are not subjected to the public.
So what you're saying is a nurse does not keep the record?
I did not say that.
record at all?
I did not say that. I did not say that.
Other than the notes, like you write.
There are different forms. I did not put anything tonight in the computer.
It's just a question, does nurse write a instant report or not?
On a case like that, there was probably no need to. It wasn't the nurse's, his incident.
Well, I don't think.
There's a school administrator. We have other employees that are responsible for that, the safety and well-being of the children.
Just a straight yes or no?
Again, it's not relevant.
Again, they weren't riced, so you really can't even, there's only one administrator in the building.
This is not nothing to rise, this is not a personal issue.
No,
This is a
there's only one,
personnel
yeah,
issue.
but there's only one administrator, so without even mentioning his or her name, there's only one here, so you have to legally rice them, correct?
No,
I cannot discuss any personnel matters.
But we're
Right.
not really, yeah, we're not really mentioning the
Procedure.
names.
Yeah, but
But there's only one here. I
person.
cannot discuss personnel
Yeah.
matters
Yeah,
regardless.
you can't,
But why this has to be personnel issue? This is nothing but procedure.
You asked me a question regarding a school employee. That's personnel. I cannot discuss personnel.
I'm asking a question whether there is an instant report when a child goes to nurse office.
If there is a medical reason that they attended the nurse's office, there is an incident report.
I mean,
If
the
a
child-
student has a broken arm, I'm sure an incident report is submitted for insurance purposes.
has to be.
So even if
so-
it's not for insurance purposes.
Again, we have to do an
So
incident
there's a
report.
report on every incident
Wow,
involving
this is
personnel.
actually it's very interesting, very,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not a common sense.
I understand what she's saying. From my understanding, if nurse takes a log, like if any student comes to her, does she take a log that like someone came in at what time and I helped her or as a whatever. If they ever really make a log, that's what probably she's asking. So each day they have a daily transaction
That's right.
report. Is it?
Well,
Okay.
all I'm asking is a procedure, that's
Right.
all I'm asking.
We have procedures, I promise you, Ms. Yoon.
And is that procedure is kind of shareable with the parents or residents?
What I
Or
could
not?
have shared, and I have shared with the parents, has been shared at this point.
Yeah, well, I guess
This
what
is
I.
why we shouldn't go back and forth, Tom.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Okay,
I think Ms. Rivera had a question.
yes, ma'am.
First, I was here in November, and I remember the life, and we had many conversations back and forth throughout the months. I wanna applaud you guys for coming up, but the moment I got that protocol, the toilet
Thank you.
trade guidelines, I knew immediately this is the response to that incident. But I did have a question, because I have a 5-year-old and I have a 3-year-old. I got the same protocol for both of them. I get it for the 5-year-old, but my 3-year-old every now and then does have
Has
an
an
issue. Do
accident.
we actually expect 3-year-olds?
So in the past, and because we're a public school, I can't force children to be potty trained at private facilities. They can do that. With this new grant, it's a catch-22. We're wonderful, it's great news. The governor came here and we got more money. And we're educating 3-year-olds. Not all 3-year-olds are potty
I
trained.
was actually under the impression that it still was mandated.
We are
even
trying
with
to
the
work
grant.
with families of 3-year-olds, like you were trying to teach your child not to have an accident, but accidents happen.
Right.
So we are working together. It's not a perfect world we live in. We are constantly, again, unfortunately, as a result of a incident,
Right.
we made changes, and that's the world we live in. Problems happen and we have to react to those, but, the best problems that happen sometimes become, the best results that we can, change. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but we have, I hope, and I'm grateful that you have received it and are happy with it. It's unfortunate it had to happen the way it did. I wish we were more proactive in getting it to you prior to.
And unfortunately, 7-year-olds sometimes have accidents. I mean, you don't know.
Right.
But thank you. Okay, any other questions for audience? If not, I'd like to entertain a motion that we go into closed session for the agreement, the negotiations, correct?
Correct, yes, MOA.
And MOA, and it should not be, are we going out to vote on it afterwards?
I also have HIB and I do need a vote publicly.
Okay.
So I need to ask for a motion after, but again,
Okay.
To those students in the back, I know you guys are bored out of your minds. How about if I give you some good news? You ready? My phone is going crazy right now, and it's not my wife or kids. A lot of schools are thinking delayed opening. I don't even know what the weather looks like. So,
Might happen.
I was thinking 6 a.m. make the call, but I'm having a feeling that it might happen tonight. Is anyone gonna check the weather back there? You're just giving me one of these, but like, help me
Why
out.
don't you just let the dance team come late?
Again.
Why not?
Yeah,
You
but
deserve
I'm
it
just
somehow.
Penn State closed tomorrow.
Penn State, I'm not worried about Penn State, we live in New Jersey.
I know, but it's coming.
And also St. Peter's University, they too have only virtual. I found
Can
that out.
somebody in the back tell me what the weather looks like?
It's starting tonight.
1 a.m.
They said 1 or 2 a.m. I heard.
If
2 a.m.
if the board lets me out of here at a decent hour, I'll make a call tonight.
I haven't seen my kids today.
Okay, so we just have.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but when I was a child, which yes was a long time ago, you didn't get the phone call the night before. You woke
That
up the next
morning,
day,
and
you
you
watched
heard
the
the sirens.
news,
And
you
you
saw
woke the school
whatever,
and they told you
you
it was
got the
closed.
call a month ago or whenever it was,
Right.
I
and
messed
you
up.
apologized
I messed
for
up.
it.
So did the weatherman,
Because
every
a
day.
lot of towns did.
Right.
It was ridiculous,
Can
there
I-
was no need for the kids to.
So here is my response to that, and I respect.
And I know it wasn't your fault.
No, I respect and appreciate your point, and I would love to call this, I'm up at 5 a.m.
Me
I can
too.
make the call at 6 a.m.
That's what I
The
think.
problem in our community, unfortunately, is so many families would need to make arrangements, and it's a little bit more convenient now to know tonight to get sitters, to make help. It's
I
difficult.
understand it, I just think it's.
Yeah, we used to get the siren.
The
years
longer
ago.
I sit here, the less likely anything's happening tonight.
Okay.
So, you know what, maybe you'll get what you want.
So I'd like to entertain a motion that we close the open session. I mean, the audience.
Make a motion, we go into closed session.
No, to close this one first.
To close, yes.
Thank you, all in favor?
or should I give it to the kids?
What's that? Oh, give it to this. And,
They get
we now would like to, so now we are closed. I'd like to entertain a motion that we go into closed session.
I make a motion.
Second on that? All in favor? All opposed?